Richard.
Well, good morning to my colleagues and yourself. I think the energy sector matters are largely one that we have talked about repeatedly. But the problems there are presently largely inefficiencies that have been talked about to do with the value chain from generation, transmission, distribution, and consumption. So in that chain there are challenges there that needs to be dealt with. So all the players in that chain there need to do their work well. And the terminal end, the distribution, ECG will have to up its game. Currently, I think their losses are monthly about some 2 billion cedis. That's sinful. Consumption also.
I just did a quick Google, and I'm reading from graphic. ECG suffers 10.21 billion loss in 2022. Yeah. I mean, how does any company survive from things like this?
It's egregious. And if you look also at the consumption and also a lot of leakages there, which again you can attribute to ECG as well, because that's their business. They're supposed to see to it that people who are getting power are getting it in a manner that they can account for it in terms of paying for it to them. And so that's a challenge there. But I think that, one of the problems is inefficiency. But the other bit is pricing, which has been talked about widely, that it reflects cost of production. And also, I argue that it's leadership, but when it comes to the NDC, it is contractual and is politics. You see, I have not come to settle in my mind why we signed a power purchase agreement where we agree with people that would provide them fuel, okay, which is not to be recovered in terms of the pricing, and that all you would do as an IPP, come, bring your equipment, generate power for us, we'll provide the fuel for you, and then you just bill us. I mean, I don't know who does that. It's sinful. In fact, if I remember, I think the World Bank commentary on this matter is to the extent that it's expensive and it's wrong to sign such power purchase agreement. That's the problem. That, for me, is the problem. Take away the inefficiencies of ECG and the rest of the matters that we've talked about. That is a problem.
Yeah, the World Bank did fault them. And when you came in 2016, this became a major thing in 2017. Yeah. You set up a committee, you remember Philip Addison and the rest of them, all of them there. So should we still be talking about this in 2025?
Yes. Yeah, we should be. But you see, the NPP government did what it could to deal with some of the elements of the contract, which is to the extent of the take-or-pay element of it. But this aspect of fuel is entrenched because that's fundamental to the agreement to come. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're saying that certainly we are not going to provide fuel again and the pricing and everything else will be considered. But meanwhile, the pricing already is high when we are providing the fuel.
And we can resolve that in 8 years?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the only way you could have resolved it is to build your own capacity to be able to produce or generate, and then you tell them we can't live by this.
They are talking about another gas entity. They just started setting up a committee to work at that.
Right.
So they are being a lot more forward-looking than you have done.
Well, I'm saying that, so we'll get to that one.
Because gas is cheaper.
Yes, but I'm saying that the first leg is that the contract is bad. That has put us in this situation. Because right now, as we're talking, you need about 1.7 billion, right, to pay the IPPs. But on the side of that, you need some 1.1 billion to get fuel. So assuming that they had to provide their own fuel, you have that 1.1
It's okay, billion. You are making the problem statement. We know that ECG,
but I'm just saying
ECG is recording, they say, $67 million, dollars in loss in revenue every month. We are not interested in the problem statement.
No, we should be.
We're looking at the solution now.
Yes, no, but you see, we should be interested in that problem statement because those who brought about the problem are in power. so that they must realize what they have created is coming down back to haunt them. Now, perhaps, maybe they can have
They brought about a problem that we gave you the opportunity to resolve because you said you could resolve it, and 80 years, you're still saying we should blame them?
Well, but you can be pardoned if you inherit a bad problem and you couldn't solve it. The person who created it is there. You tell him to solve the problem.
Come on, Richard.
But I think the point I want to make there is that now we should be holistic about the approach, right? To say that, can we open the doors for that conversation? To say that, look, how can we look at this? If not, then let's look at the per kilowatt rate at which they are selling.
Do you see that they have opened the doors for that conversation? Do you see that they are proffering solutions, including bringing on another gas?
No, I'll come to that. That's separate from the contractual matter. So I guess that's fundamental matter that must be looked at. That conversation should be broached with the IPPs so we see how we can deal with that. Because all these threats they have been issuing, will shut down, We are providing you fuel. Why are you shutting down against what? Is it because you don't have fuel? We are providing it. And our minister is causing us all panic by saying he can't get money to buy fuel. Now managed to get some, and you are saying you're going to shut down, right? So the resolution of the matter is on the back of the fuel being available or just still about their money. So they are taking us for a ride, in my view, okay, because they've managed to rip us off in that contract. But you see, the matter to do with the next, and I think that the problems are known, so how we're dealing with it is key. So the gas plants that they have a committee, and I learned about it yesterday, it's good. But when Ahiagbah was coming, that was the conversation, right? When Ahiagbah comes, all these IPPs that have been signed would have access to gas, and therefore the cost of electricity will be low. But when it happened, what happened? The infrastructure to take the gas to them was not there. So are we building the gas plant again before we are looking at how we take the gas to the plants? Are they being done concurrently, or they've been done, exclusively? So are we building the gas plant before we see how it gets there? That means it's going to take forever long to be able to even complete the gas plant and then get the gas to go to the plant.
Since we are in the process, as in the state is in the process, I think this is a suggestion you are making, and they would definitely factor it.
So that's long term. Long term. It's not even immediate. It's long term. The present challenge that we face, really, I think that the government can open the door to this contractual conversation with the IPPs. I think that will really give us some space to have a conversation about how we bring the price down.
Okay.
It is too high, and then on the back of that, the threats that comes. And then the substantial matter, which I believe, so I'm saying, I think across the table along here, everybody will agree that ECG can begin to do something about these things now, in terms of their recovery rate, even the transmission end, all the transmission losses there, we can do a bit more. I think at the average, it's about 8-9%. Ours is very high. So there's a need for us to be able to look at that front also and see what we can do.
Right.
And the conversation, briefly, the conversation about private participation and all that, I have a very firm position that we shouldn't go in that direction. The only way maybe private intervention makes sense to me is that open up the space to the extent that there'll be a private person that comes in, or a private company that comes in from generation to distribution. We can have a private interplay there that brings real competition, so that ECG will sit up.
Now they are talking about the collection site, which
that one for me is, I'm talking about from generation all the way to distribution. Entire value chain. If you open it up,
but the people are against it.
Which people?
They are the ECG staff and all. They are vehemently against it.
Well, that would not be up to them.
I think from generation, there's some level of privatization.
Or even with billing system.
No, I'm saying,
even with billing system.
There's one off-taker. In all of this, there's one off-taker whose inefficiency affects all the back end.
Right.
To generation. ECG. Yeah. So I think that the approach government has adopted is that let's look at that off-taker. Because if you look at the cash waterfall mechanism, that is also not being followed and all of that. So you want to look at where does the problem cluster. Can we begin to look at it from that point? Right. And if you pick where the problem classless, then the issue is ECG. How do we resolve that?
Right.
Because to reduce the distribution losses and all of that, you need a considerable level of investment. Government doesn't have that fiscal space.
This is what Samson took to
We have two other issues to canvass, even though each one of them may have a certain, level of importance.
I haven't landed.
Okay, finish quickly, then Khalid will get a minute before we take a break.
The point I'm making is that if you are really looking to sanitize the space and make it a bit less stressful as we're going through it, then open up the space. Let even private, individuals can come in, purchase power from the IPPs if that's what they are, or somebody can come in and set up from generation all the way through to consumption, so that people can choose in the market where to go to. So then ECG will be forced to be efficient, because if it's not, its prices will not be acceptable, and so therefore people will not choose. That's what is done elsewhere. But this whole thing about having to hand it, and government to hand that thing and have private thing to be able to abuse citizens, that for me I have a problem. Okay. But let's look at a model that will get people to come to the market, create real competition in the market to drive price down and increase efficiency.
Thank you.
Yes. My question to Richard is that,
is it a rhetorical question?
Well, he could answer it. It's rhetorical.
I don't have extra time for an answer.
No, but he made a point which is not even accurate about when they came into office, there was a looming energy crisis. There wasn't.
They told us. They told us right at the inauguration.
The minister corrected himself, adverting to say that what he said was in respect of HFO, but meanwhile, crude oil was there. Send power.
All right. You're correct about that. Let's hear you.
My point